Hello friends, welcome to my channel, The Recap. Today on The Recap, we're quickly looking at some integrated science paper 1 questions. That is multiple choice questions for the integrated science exam. I'm Jamain Hatton and I am going to help you try and remember some answers and questions so you can do as well as you hope to do. Let's go into it. So I don't know how well you're able to see these questions, but I'm going to read them for you. So the first question says photosynthesis occurs in, and the options are nucleus, cell wall, chloroplast, mitochondria. So the best answer there is chloroplast. So it's using that green pigment chlorophyll to split light energy to chemical energy, and then using using carbon dioxide and water coming from the root by osmosis to go on to make glucose and give off the byproduct oxygen, right? So I'm giving a good description there of that photosynthesis process. So the structure responsible for the transfer of characteristics from parents to offspring is found in it's really found on the chromosome, and the chromosomes, or it's really found on the gene, and the gene is on the chromosome, and the chromosome is in the nucleus, right? So the best answer there is chromosome, but it could also ask you where it is in. It is in the nucleus, right? So just remember that. Question 3 is asking you about the animal cell here. So they're asking you where is Y. Why the nucleus is probably the largest organelle, internal organelle, so it will characteristically be evident what the nucleus is, and that's the best option there. It can be cytoplasm. The cytoplasm will be the gel-like substance, so that the cytoplasm will be everything that the internal organelles are in. All right, so the other structure you're seeing there, the larger structure, the tubular structure would be the mitochondrion, singular mitochondrion, plural mitochondria. Chromosome, well, you wouldn't see that. You would never see that because remember the chromosomes are so tiny that they're within the nucleus, so you wouldn't be able to see that there. Then number 4, up back at the top, which of the following statements about photosynthesis is true? So they're asking what is true. They're saying that oxygen is absorbed by the chlorophyll. No. Remember, oxygen is a byproduct produced, so that wouldn't be absorbed by the chlorophyll. It will be carbon dioxide that is absorbed through the stomata, right? Water is a byproduct. No. Water is a reactant. Remember, it's using water and carbon dioxide to produce glucose and oxygen. So water would not be a byproduct. The process results in the releasing of energy? No, that would be respiration. Respiration is what allows for the release of energy. Carbon dioxide is used by chlorophyll. Yeah, that's the best option there. Number 5 says, which nutrient is important for the building of strong bones? Strong muscles. So the function of proteins are generally to do what? Repair of cells and building new cells, right? So protein would be the best option there. Starch, sugar would give you energy. Fat will insulate as well as also can give energy. Fat gives about 2 to 4 times more energy as carbohydrates, so that's something you should remember because the questions can really change up. So I'm trying to give you a good picture of what you can expect. Question 6 at the bottom, they're saying that the word equation for photosynthesis. This question here, if it comes, the options will not be the same. Sometimes the answer is D. When you work many papers, you would see that the options are rearranged. So don't just close your eyes and put B. Read the question carefully, right? So photosynthesis, as you know, it's where carbon dioxide reacts with water. So it's water coming from the root through osmosis, and carbon dioxide coming into the leaf through the stomata. Remember, there's more stomata on the underside of the leaf than upper side, and that you can understand why, because if there is stomata on the upper side, you can understand that it will just result in the loss of water. So it's on the underside, right? Energy, the energy there will be the chemical energy from the light and giving off glucose or making glucose, which will later on be used up by the plant or either stored as a tuber or something to that effect. Oxygen would be given off as a byproduct. What is this byproduct? It is where something is made but is not necessarily needed, so it's just given off. Right? Good. So that is that there. So B would be the best answer. But again, remember that option can be D. It can be A. It can be C. It doesn't matter. All you have to do is make sure you know what the equation for photosynthesis is. And that equation, the reverse of that equation, would be what respiration is. So look at D. Oxygen and glucose is used to give carbon dioxide, water, and release energy. That would be respiration, right? Good. Question 7 says, which of the following pollutants has a strong affinity for hemoglobin? Carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide binds tightly to hemoglobin. It has a higher affinity for hemoglobin than oxygen. What that means, a young lady I think was asking about that on the last video I posted. What that means is simply that if there is oxygen and carbon monoxide present, the red blood cell, which hemoglobin is in, the red blood cell will more tightly bind or choose to carry carbon monoxide than oxygen. You think you understand what I'm saying there? So again, I'm going it back. Affinity is just talking about liking, how liked something is, or how willing something is to accept this molecule. So what am I saying? I'm saying affinity is a liking for something. So carbon monoxide is more liked than oxygen by hemoglobin. Hemoglobin likes carbon monoxide more than it likes oxygen. So if they have the presence of both, it will choose carbon monoxide, and it will transfer that carbon monoxide in this form of carboxyhemoglobin, and that would result in death of an individual, really, because of course you cannot possibly use carbon monoxide in the body. What would that do? It will generally cause death. All right. So normally a colorless, odorless gas, tasteless gas. So sometimes when people are being poisoned, they don't even know they're being poisoned. All they see is the cherry pink lips and hands and so on. So yeah, good. Moving on, carbon monoxide would be option there again. So you know your respiratory surfaces. All respiratory surfaces have things in common. They are moist. If they are moist because they have a good blood supply. So they must have good blood vessels. And if they are moist, then for oxygen to be diffused or for gases to be diffused, they must have a large surface area and they must also be thin. So those are the characteristics. You need to remember those. So what they have here, they have moist, small surface area. No, that should be large surface area. So 1 and 3 would be correct. Yes, well blood supplied, or well supplied with blood, and moist. Next, which of the following is a significant source of air pollution? Which of the following are, rather, so they mean you have more than one option that you will have to choose. Volcanic eruptions, extensive use of cars, yes. Dumping of plastic, that would not necessarily lead to air pollution if they probably had said the burning of plastic, yes. But the dumping of plastic, no. So the air pollution will release gases in the atmosphere, things like sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide if it's incomplete combustion. Well, let's go back. Let's go back a bit. I didn't tell you about that. So what is this carbon monoxide? How is carbon monoxide formed? Well, when there is oxidation or when there is burning of a fuel and it happens completely, if it combusts completely, you will have carbon dioxide forming. All right, so when the substance combusts completely, it will go on to form the product carbon dioxide. Carbon monoxide is as a result of incomplete combustion. All right, so when something is burning in oxygen but there is not enough oxygen, that is as a result, that's going to lead to carbon monoxide being present. So when there's not enough oxygen, it will lead to the presence of carbon monoxide. So just so you know, I'm trying to teach you while I do the multiple choice. I'm not just doing the multiple choice. I hope you can understand why. So number 9 would be A. All right. Good. I like blood. I like blood. My first degree was in medical technology at the University of Guyana, so I have a strong base in blood banking. So I like blood. So when I teach blood, my students tend to appreciate it as much as I do. So let's go into this blood question here. The blood groups with no antigen. So A, B, O, and AB. So let's quickly talk about blood. So they are antigens found on your red blood cells. All right. So if you're talking about your blood group, we are basically checking for the antigens that might be present on your red blood cells. If there's an antigen present on your red blood cell, then that antigen will determine what your blood group will be. So if they are antigens A, antigens B, if both antigens are present, then your blood group will be AB. If it only has the A antigen, then your blood group is A. If it has the B antigen, your blood group is B. Think you understand what I'm saying? What if there's no antigen? If there's no antigen in your blood cell, then your blood group is blood group O. Not blood group 0, blood group O. Think you understand what I'm saying? Good. So quickly, I'll tell you. These questions can be flipped. They can flip it to ask you what antibodies are present in the plasma. So don't panic if that happens. Let me just explain it to you. Let me go back again. The antigen present on the red cell will determine what your blood group will be. If antigen A is present, the blood group will be blood group A. If antigen B is present, the blood group will be B. If both antigens are present, it's going to be A, B. Blood group A, B. Right? Good. If there's no antigen, blood group O. So the opposite happens for the antibody. If the antigen present is antigen A, the person in the plasma would have antibody B. This antibody that the person has will prevent them from collecting or receiving blood of that blood group. Think of what I'm saying? Let me go it again. Blood group A will have antibody B circulating in their plasma. This will be preformed antibodies. The person will be born with these antibodies. What does that mean? If the person gets into contact with blood of blood group B, the antibodies present in their plasma would lyse those blood cells and the person basically will die as a result. So if the person is blood group B now, what antibody would they have? What blood can they not collect? A, exactly. So they will not be able to collect blood from blood group A. It's a protective mechanism, really, that prevents a person from collecting any and everybody's blood. So if the question was asking you, what blood group would a person be? No, I don't like that one. Let me restructure that one. What antibodies will be present in the plasma of a person who is blood group A? What antibody will be present in the plasma of a person who is blood group A? If you've guessed antibody B, then that will be correct. So now what if the person has both antigens, A and B? The person blood group will be blood group AB. But what antibody would a person of blood group AB have in their plasma? Think. If they have both A and B antigen on their red cells, what antibody will they have naturally circulating? Should they have an antibody? Remember, the antibody will attack the blood cells, so will prevent them from collecting a blood group. That's correct. They would not have any antibodies in their plasma. As a result of them not having any antibody in their plasma, it means they can now collect blood from any blood group. That's why they're often called the universal recipient, because there are no antibodies to prevent them from collecting blood. I can probably do a lesson on this if you don't understand it. You can probably leave a comment in the comment section. Let me understand. Let me know whether or not you understand what I'm saying. And I can probably do a subsequent video to help you with that. But let's recap it. What I'm saying, first of all, antigen on the red cells will determine the blood group. If the antigen present is antigen A, then the blood group would be what? Antigen A, blood group A. Antigen B, blood group B. No antigen, blood group O. Right? So what if the person has no antigen on their red cell, or the person's blood group O? What antibody would they have? Yes, they would have both antibodies, antibody A and antibody B, circulating in their plasma. All right. So if they get into contact with blood from blood group A or blood from blood group B, that will cause the death of the individual. All right. It's called a hemolytic reaction, more or less. But because these individuals have neither antigen on their red cells, antigen A or antigen B are absent on their blood cell, these persons are called universal donor. Because their red cells lack antigens, it means they do not have either antigen A or antigen B. They lack the antigens. Their blood cells, their red blood cells, can be given to any individual. So as a result of that, they are called the universal blood donors, right? Specifically, the universal blood donor really is O negative, while the universal recipient would be AB positive. But that talks about the rhesus factor, and that one's a little bit more complicated, so I don't want to get into that right now. But just have this knowledge here for you. Let me know if you understand it. If you don't, I can probably do a subsequent video to help you with that. So go ahead and drop a comment. I'll be able to help you with that. Alright, we've already spent too much time on this page. Let's go on quickly. So they're asking what blood cell is that? That is going to be a neutrophil, which is a white blood cell. So the white blood cell there would fight off infections. So yes, infections. If they ask what would transport oxygen, that would be your red blood cells. You should know what those look like. And if it asks what clots blood, that would be your platelets. Right? Good. Transport dissolved foods, that would be your nutrients, which would be your plasma. Right? Good. What separates the heart, the right and left side of the heart? That would be the septum. And then the next question here is asking what? Which of the following processes associated with excretion in the kidney or excretion by the kidney? The kidney doesn't evaporate. That would be stupid. The skin probably evaporates through sweat, but the kidney doesn't evaporate. So filtration, yes, we know ultrafiltration occurs in the Bowman's capsule, and then we have reabsorption taking place along the nephron, right? So good. So that would be 2 and 3. So answer would be C for number 13. So this one is a little hard to read, but the question says 14 to 15 refers to the hormones. So we have adrenaline, we have insulin, we have prolactin, and we have secretin. So adrenaline is a fight or flight hormone, so that would make you do things that you don't possibly do. I explained that in the video where I talk about a crash course. So in the crash course video, I explained all of these hormones. So if you didn't get a chance to look at that, a link will be in the description to that video. Check that out because that will help you. It will give you a more detailed appreciation for the endocrine system. So what regulates blood sugar? We can have both insulin as well as glucagon. Both of those hormones are released by the pancreas. Another one would be emergency situations. That would be adrenaline. Fight or flight. You either fight or you run away. 16, they're asking you what transmits messages to the brain. That would be the optic nerve. That would be C, right? The picture is a little weird. It took a bit weird, so forget it. But just be appreciative of it being here to help you, right? Good. And then they're asking you which of the following are diseases caused by bacteria. Remember in the crash course video, I listed diseases that were caused by bacteria, viruses, fungi. You need to remember that. This question here is asking you that as well. So let's look at it. We know HIV is going to be caused by a virus, human immunodeficiency virus, herpes simplex virus. Herpes is another virus, so those are two viral infections. And they're asking you what are caused by bacteria. Syphilis is caused by the bacteria Treponema pallidum, while gonorrhea is caused by Neisseria gonorrhoeae, another bacteria. Right. So the three syphilis and gonorrhea are caused by bacteria. Right. Singular bacterium, plural bacteria. So 3 and 4, that would be D. D would be the correct answer there. Then next, finally, on this page here, we have which of the following test tubes would germination most likely take place in? It would not take place in test tube 1, because that cotton is dry. Remember, one of the things that needed for germination to occur would be moisture or water. So that one wouldn't have germination occurring. Test tube 2 looks good because it has nice air, it has a moist cotton, it has an appropriate temperature. Remember those conditions for germination to take place. Why would it not occur in 3? Because the temperature at 3 is 0 degrees Celsius, so that would be freezing. So there will be no germination at that temperature. The temperature must be appropriate. It must be appropriate warmth. Right, so the boiled water present in 4 would lead to denaturing of enzymes, so that seed wouldn't go anywhere. That wouldn't germinate. So the best answer there is 2. Germination would happen in test tube 2. So we have question 19, says the testis of the human male corresponds with the anther of the female flower. That is not what that's saying. Let me go again. The testis of the human male corresponds with the anther of the flower because they both produce male sex hormone. Yes, the anther of the flower produces the male sex hormone, which corresponds with the testis of the male. All right, good. What else? Which of the following completes the following path for fertilization? So the pollen grain has to land on the stigma. When the pollen grain lands on the stigma, it goes down the style, enters the ovary, and fuses with the ovule. So it must land on the stigma. Right? Good. Solar energy is transferred through space. Of course, that's radiation. I talked about that as well in the crash course video. And I have another question here asking about heat transfer, and they're asking you at I. So they have an arrow there at I. Look at that carefully. Question 22 I'm reading. At I, and they're asking you what is that process. So they're showing you that heat is moving through the metal rod. So they're not asking about anything else. They're just asking about the metal rod. Heat is moving through that metal rod. What is the process that uses heat to move through solid objects? And that's going to be conduction. Metals, conduction. They're asking you in that thermometer picture there, what is I, or 1, whatever it is. That part is going to be the bulb, and the bulb would have the mercury or the alcohol, whatever the thermometer is made of, right? Good. So, where are we? Last question here. Which of the following farming techniques are associated with preventing soil erosion? I didn't do agri since I was in school, really, and I don't. This one I do believe is all of the above: terracing, contour farming, strip planting. All of those should prevent erosion. Remember, erosion is the washing away of the top layer of the soil. Leaching is the washing away of the nutrients from the top layer of the soil. All right, so you can be asking the exam to differentiate between leaching and soil erosion. So erosion will be the washing away of the top layers of the soil, while leaching is the nutrients. But all of those there should be preventing soil erosion. You disagree? Let me know in the comments. Quickly, the eye of the hurricane is the center of the hurricane. That's quite straightforward. 26. The decayed organic matter in the soil is called humus. Yes, definitely. And then you have a nice food web here. Remember, food web is just a complicated or complex food chain relationship showing feeding relationship among organisms. Food web contains many food chains, so you can have many individual food chains coming off of this food web. Remember, a food chain always starts with a green plant or a producer, then there will be a herbivore or an omnivore. So herbivore eating the green plant or eating the producer, and then you have maybe a carnivore eating that omnivore or herbivore, right? So let's go to question 27. Which of the following is a producer? There's only one producer in this food web. It is the grass. The grass, a green plant, always has to be the producer. And then asking which of the following is not a herbivore. So they're looking for something that does not. I every year I work this paper. When I work this paper with my students, for some reason they always think of what happens in real life and choose an answer. Nobody's asking you about real life. They're asking you based on this food web they give you. So don't say to yourself, mouse don't eat grass. It gotta be mouse. No. Look at the food web and figure it out. Based on the food web, they're showing you that rabbit, squirrel, mouse, and bird feed on this grass. Alright? So those are going to be the herbivore based on the food web. I don't care what happens in real life. This is what is happening in the food web. They're trying to see if you understand the idea of a food web. So just forget what you know personally and pay attention to what is given to you in the exam. Which of the following is not a herbivore? Look at the spider. The spider here is eating what? The herbivorous insect. So this would be what? An omnivore or probably carnivore, right? So it can be an omnivore if it was actually also feeding on the grass, but more likely going to be a carnivore. So spider would be that not a herbivore. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars and Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. Those are the planets in the solar system. Yes, I named them all. So a question in the exam can ask you to know a particular planet in the solar system. So the solar system is one of the things also in the syllabus. So you have to know the solar system, know the planets of the solar system, and know the order in which these planets come. Right. So I was teaching my students today a song to help them remember the planets of the solar system. These children were lost. By the way, I know I cannot sing, so don't comment and tell me about my singing. I know I cannot sing. Appreciate the energies behind the song. So I'm sharing this with you. A few of them came to class today while we were doing a little brush through, final brush through of the syllabus. So I was teaching them this song. Appreciate the song. And after I taught them the song, they were teaching me now a mnemonic that they made up to help them remember the order in which the planets came. So again, that just goes to show there is no one way of killing a cat. There are many ways you can kill a cat without putting a rope around his neck. I grew up hearing that statement. Anyway, so while I was teaching them that song, we have another way, a mnemonic that they made up. So I'm going to share the mnemonic with you all that my students made. So it says, please, mnemonics are supposed to be, and they're supposed to be. The students tend to remember worthless things or vulgar things, so forgive it. It will help you to remember it more, right? So thank my students. Thank them in the comment section if you don't know this already. So it says, my vagina earns money just so you know pest. So you're talking to a pest. My vagina earns money just so you know. Just so you know, pest. All right? Good. My vagina earns money just so you know. Pest. And that corresponds with the order in which the planets come in the ecosystem, in the solar system, not the ecosystem. We have Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. And you should remember which one has the ring around it, right? I know some literature says Pluto floats away because it lacks that gravitational pull, but for the purpose of CXC, remember that Pluto is also one of those planets, right? Good. Alright, so let's look at some more quickly. We're running out of time. Which is, actually, we have all the time in the world, so let's just relax and work some multiple choice, yeah? Which of the following fishing method is the least efficient as it relates to the number of catch? They had to specify that because students didn't know what least efficient meant. Efficiency deals with the number of catch, remember that. So what would be the least efficient? Drift net, long lines, hand lines. Hand lines would be the least efficient. They're catching one fish at a time and a very small one to that, right? Trawl nets would lead to overfishing, remember that. Trawling nets, you ever looked at Finding Nemo? Yeah, trawl net would have been an example of that Nemo was in at one point. So yes, that would lead to overfishing where they're catching all the fish and they don't necessarily need those that they're catching. And oftentimes persons dispose of what they don't need without putting them back in. Dispose of it instead of putting it back in. So that's overfishing. Which of the following processes results in water moving from ocean to the atmosphere? So water moving up, that would be moving from liquid to gas. That would be an example of evaporation. Remember I told you in that video, know how you're converting from water to, or solid to liquid and then liquid to gas. Remember that? And as well, know how you're moving from solids to liquids or solid to gas. So remember, sublimation, freezing, uh, evaporation, condensation. Those are some of the words you have to remember. So pay attention to that. It's called the conversion of matter. So know that. So pay attention to that. If you don't know it already, go and check that out. Which of the following processes used in the treatment of water will eliminate harmful bacteria? I spoke about this as well in that video that I talked about I spoke about this in that video where we looked at the crash course of integrated science. We talked about this. Chlorination, where you're adding chlorine to something that would result in killing of harmful pathogens. So disease-causing organisms will be killed here. So chlorination would be the answer there. Settling heavy metals, that's sedimentation, D. And they're asking boiling and recondensation of water, that is the process of distillation. The most efficient method used in controlling pests, you got to get rid of those breeding places. Most efficient, most effective, right? Most effective way of controlling them is to get rid of their breeding ground. If you get rid of their breeding ground, you will control them. So remember to remember what pests are, what parasites are. I have examples of them: cockroaches, flies, mosquitoes, and parasites would be your worms, your lice, and so on. Remember that? We spoke about that in that crash course video as well. Least harmful to the environment. Least harmful will not be burying. Many times students put burying. Least harmful will be recycle. Recycling wouldn't hurt a thing about the environment. So this is a question here. Number 36 is a question I always have problems with. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I don't think so. But tell me what you think about this question. So number 36 says, which of the following is most essential? No, they didn't say most essential. They say, which of the following are essential for a welder? So a welder. I am saying the answer is helmet and glove. Some persons often say the answer is boots. A welder doesn't really need to protect his foot. It's okay, it's needed, but it's not essential. I don't think it's essential. The eyes are essential. I don't know. I don't know why. Some students will argue so strongly about this question, and then they will tell you, people like London, then they will tell you, if it come in the exam, I'm gonna choose boots too. Well, go ahead and choose boots. You boots gonna get 2. Anyway, let's go on. They're asking now, what is most important for a student working in a laboratory with corrosive chemical? Gloves. Gloves will be most important in that case. So why would helmet not be important then? Same reason we were talking about just now. So what? Which of the following is not a conductor of electricity? That's what not a conductor of electricity. That would have been plastic. Plastic could be an insulator. Good. So this question here, 39, says rusting of iron. So they're talking about the iron. The iron is rusting, and that's an example of oxidation. So it's rusting generally is an oxidation reduction reaction. They're asking about the iron, oxidation would be that answer. Brass is a mixture of copper and zinc. You just need to remember that. Also, try to remember what alloy is. What is the components making up alloy? Try and look at that as well. So steel is widely used in the construction of buildings because it has a high tensile strength. Melting point would not really help in that sense. Its tensile strength keep things strong, right? I have a list of things here you have to remember. I don't know why my phone is going off like this. So they're asking you which removes nail polish. Acetone alcohol, or acetone remove nail polish. Borax remove rust stain. Remember that. Borax remove rust. A question can ask you that as well. Washing soda, soda. Washing soda removes fruit. Methylated spirit removes grass. Turpentine removes paint. Remember that. Turpentine removes paint. Good. So 43. Which of the following? Where am I? Which crop grows the best? Which crop grows best in neutral soil? So they're looking at the pH scale here. Neutral soil, it would be 6 to 8. So between 6 and 8, we'll have the neutral point of 7, right? Remember, pH scale is a scale from 0 to 14, and it generally is going to show you acid bases, right? Remember, acids will have a pH of less than 7, while greater than 7 would be a base, right? The closer it is to the neutral point, the weaker it is. So the neutral point would be that 7. The closer the substance is to that neutral point, the weaker it will be. The farther it is away, the stronger it will be. So a substance such as a pH of 2 compared to a pH of 4, both of them will be an acid, but the 2 would be stronger than the 4. All right, good. Thinking about a base now, pH of 8 and pH of 12, both are bases, but the 12 would have the higher pH, right? The higher pH, obviously, but a stronger acid, a stronger base. Why is it a stronger base? Because it's farther away from that neutral point. Wow, that's a lot. So the following substances would form a suspension in water. Suspension would be clay. Colloid would be starch in water. Solution would be water. Solution salt. All right. Hard water is that doesn't lather with soap. When you put soap with hard water, there's a seawater basically. The seawater would not lather with soap. Seawater, not the ocean water. Right. Good. Then we have this nice diagram here. We talked about this in our crash course video. I taught you how to read this, so let's quickly read it. 1 and 2, between 1 and 2, remember you record a number that has been passed and not a number approaching. So in other words, you're recording the smaller number, right? So between those two, you record the number 1. Between 5 and 6, record 5. We're recording the number that has been passed. That's how you read these meters, and not a number approaching again. So 4, then 8, because that's not directly at 9 as yet. And then 7 and 8, between 7 and 8, so record the number 7, and then 0 as the decimal place. So the answer there would have been A. We have a question here which asks about the primary colors. Primary colors I teach my students in mnemonic RBG, red, green, blue. Red, blue, green, right? RBG. What protects the circuit? The fuse, I talked about that in the video as well. And then you have this question here, a refrigerator rating 0.45 kilowatt. And they're asking you how much would it burn basically if it's used for a day. Remember, day has how many hours? 24 hours, so it's 24 times your 0.45 kilowatt. So that would be C. The Caribbean, yes, even though the Caribbean has a magnificent opportunity to use solar panels. Largely, the energy used in the Caribbean is still fossil fuel. So the answer is B there. What type of energy contained in fossil fuel? Chemical energy is a stored energy, right? Good. When it's kinetic energy, it will be energy a body possesses as it moves. Electrical energy is when moving of electrons occur. So where are we? We're at 52 now, which is not. This here is hilarious. For some reason, I don't know why students often get this one wrong. They're asking which of the following is not an alternative source of energy. What are your alternative sources of energy? Is those energy sources that provide energy but is not use of fossil fuel, right? So solar energy, wind energy, wave. Wave would be your hydro. Yeah. And the candle, some people would say that if you don't have light, an alternative to light is candle. No, they're talking about alternative source of energy. Is wind, water, light, or what? So is it what light? I mean solar, or what? Waves, hydro. So not candle. Why people get that question wrong? Mechanical advantage. I talked about this in the crash course video. Load over effort. Remember that? Load over effort, mechanical advantage. And then we have a spanner there. A spanner is an example, I think, of a lever. Not I think. It's sort of a lever. Should be a second class lever. I have this wonderful question here. So they're asking you what best describes P. So we have the sun. Now we know planets will move around the sun in their orbits. So the planets move around the sun. So the P there would be a planet moving around the sun. If they were asking you about the R, then the R would have been an example of a satellite or the moon, right? Good. So a moon is a satellite, something that's artificially, well, moves around a planet, right? So they're asking this here. I have some queries with this question here, so I'm going to try to work it out with you. Which of the following describes the athlete jumping over the hurdle? All right. So the type of energy the athlete is using to jump over the hurdle. Jump over the hurdle. So the athlete, I think the athlete is moving. So once the body is moving, it's going to be kinetic energy, right? Potential energy might have been if they were asking you what energy the athlete has at the top of that hurdle. That would have been potential. But I think this one is kinetic. Right? Some persons might disagree and put potential, but hey, you have the autonomy to do so. Go ahead. 57, quickly. Which of the following energy changes takes place in a power station using natural gas? It's always going to be chemical because it's a fossil fuel. Chemical to electrical, right? And then this question here, 58, you have this surrounds Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there's an equal but opposite reaction. Remember that from since high school physics. Uh, for every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. What is that telling us? Take, for instance, a balloon, right? When a rocket, when a balloon has hot air or air, and we release that air, the balloon will go in one direction. The farther the balloon goes upward, the same distance the air would go downward coming out of that balloon. All right, so if the balloon goes up 4 meters, the air would go down 4 meters. So the law is saying equal, meaning 4 meters on both sides, but opposite. The balloon will go in one direction, but the air will go in the other direction. So applying that knowledge here, they're trying to show you that air is going in this engine and it's coming out through the point of Y. And then they're asking you, where is the plane moving, in what direction? If it's moving out at Y, the plane must be going towards X. All right, so it's moving Y to X. So B. And this question here, the paper is twisted, but this here is a stable equilibrium. All right, so it's stable. If it were lying on the side completely, that would have been neutral. If it was hanging from the top, that smooth surface, that would have been unstable equilibrium. Recap that if you don't understand that from your textbooks. This one is asking an electrician may use a rubber gloves to hold an electric wire because the gloves act as a insulator. So D, it does not allow current to pass through. I have a few questions here from another paper that I want to talk to you about quickly. So condoms and diaphragms are examples of barrier. So they are methods that prevent the passage of sperm. Condoms can also prevent the passage of STIs or prevent infections of STIs. All right, so the example of barrier method, what forms engulfing or what allows for engulfing of bacteria or white blood cells, particularly your neutrophil? We worked a similar question earlier with that. And then this nice diagram here, which appears to be a cell, plant cell to be exact. We can see that fixed shape. That fixed shape is because of that cell wall. So they're asking you which part do you think is the chlorophyll or the green pigment, the chlorophyll? So let's reason it out by the elimination method. So P would be the nucleus, largest internal organ other than your vacuole. All right, so let's look at S. S cannot be the chlorophyll because that's your cell membrane. You can clearly see that. The outer part would be your cell wall. What would R be? R would be your large permanent vacuole. So that's out. The only option remaining then would be Q. So Q would be that. Then we have a question here on the skeleton, and I love the skeleton questions. I in medical school, you do a lot of anatomy, so I spend a lot of time on this to ensure my students understand the anatomy of it. Some of them want to go on to do medicine as well. So you should also understand this. And it's upsetting when CXC can get a question right. But it happens. It happens. So I guess it's so just human, I guess. So look at it. The skeleton here, they have a nice question. They have X and they have Y. So, so in the arm, so the arm is the point where you have your shoulder. It's from the shoulder, between the shoulder and the elbow. So that's your arm. So the upper limb there from your glenohumeral joint or your shoulder joint to your elbow is your arm. And then from your elbow to your wrist could be your forearm, right? And then the 5 digits is what we know as the hand. But people, I guess, in the Caribbean say hand is in the entire thing, right? No, hand is just the thing with your fingers. Good. So they're asking for the joint or the bone at X. That bone at X would be your humerus. So how do you remember it? If you want to know, H humerus, H hand, close to the hand. It's not the hand, but it's close to the hand. H hand, H humerus. So it's in the hand. Femur is another long bone, so that would be the bone in the thigh, right? Good. I have that labeled there for you nicely. But the upsetting question is number 14. When they ask for why, why should have really been the uterus? Oh my goodness. Why should have been the radius? That is if it's pointing to the bone in front. Front, radius. Back would be the ulna, right? So that should have been radius, but there's no option. As you can see here, there's no option here about radius. So look at it. Femur, we know what the femur is. Fibula would be the supporting. The fibula would be that supporting bone between the knee joint and the ankle joint, the smaller bone there. So you can look at that there. I have the diagram on the right there. You can look at all of those bones there. The clavicle, well, you all know what the clavicle is, man. I don't tell you that. Look at the picture there, you know what the clavicle is. And the scapula, again, look at the picture there and you figure out what a scapula is. That shoulder blade at the back there, your scapula. Good. So, no answer there. And a question like that, if it returns, it has been. When my students told me this, I think it was in the year 2017, my students told me a question like this came, I was like, man, maybe they know what they're talking about. And when I did see the question, I was like, yeah, there's no answer there. So things like this happen. Don't second guess yourself, but I would just choose an answer. Just choose an answer, just circle something, even if you know there's no answer there. And probably notify the supervisor, but this might happen. And you know what the other option is because we talked about that question before. So there's no antigen. If there's no antigen, it must be blood group O, right? We discussed that previously. A little inspiration here for you. Just like the potter molds the clay of a vase, you are molding the clay of your life. So mold a good vase, shape a good life for yourself and that of your family. Remember, you're ugly, you're born ugly, so you can't be lazy. You have to work hard. All right? So you can't be ugly and lazy. Pick one struggle. And you know you're born ugly. Bye bye, guys. I hope you appreciate this. Goodbye. Take care. Good luck in your exams.